He will always show his true horns towards you, Jake. Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakwadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Now, when we say that the so-called white man will always show his true horns towards you, you Israelites, which you Israelites are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians. And what we mean by the so-called white man will always show his true horns towards you, that basically means that no matter what position you may have, no matter what office you might serve, the so-called white man will always show his true nature. So for the so-called white man to show his horns, which when we say horns, we're talking about double horns, which horns is just a representation of power. You know, so whenever these devils show their horns, they're basically showing their true nature toward you, you so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians, and they're showing you how they truly feel about you.
A terrifying moment at the IRS office. A taxpayer comes in to do some business and is confronted by the security guard who pulls his gun. But the taxpayer has a gun, too, because he's in uniform for his job as a deputy sheriff. Les Trent tells you what happened next.
A sheriff's deputy stops by the IRS with a routine question about his taxes. He has no idea the terrifying standoff that's about to erupt. A security guard tells him he has to remove his gun. The deputy says he can't do that and walks away. That's when the guard pulls his weapon and aims it right at the deputy.
I'm thinking, wow, this man's going to shoot me in my back. Because I can hear the anger in his voice.
Because you can hear the anger in his voice. You know why? Because you don't understand the hatred that all Edomites have toward the Israelites. And if we come over here to the book of Amos, 1 verse 11, it says, "Thus saith the Lord." When you see the Lord in all caps, that's talking about the Most High, whose name is Yahweh. But in this case, we say Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Because the Lord, you know, he's operating through his son now, okay? He's given all power and judgment to his son. So, thus saith the Lord, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. For 3 transgressions of Edom. Now, presuming to the book of, I believe, Genesis, I believe it's Genesis, the 36th chapter. It tells you that Esau is Edom. So a Edomite is a descendant of Esau. So the descendants of Esau is who? So-called white people, starting with the so-called elites, trickling down to the rest of their nation of people. They are the true descendants of Edom, who is also known as Esau in the Holy Scriptures. So for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof. How come? Because he did pursue his brother. Who is Esau's brother? Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and he had 12 sons. And those 12 sons became the 12 patriarchs of the nation of Israel. Okay, you got Judah, Benjamin, Levi, you got Manasseh, you got Asher, you got Naphtali, you got Issachar, you got Ephraim, you got Gad. I mean, I don't really need to name them all, but you get the idea. Okay. Oh yeah, you got Zebulon. Zebulon is another one. Okay, so you know, and here it says because he did pursue his brother Jacob, Israel, with the sword. Okay, here's an example of this security guard that who I believe to be an Edomite. Here's an example of him pursuing his brother Jacob with the sword. You see how he was chasing him through the door with his gun drawn, okay, and did cast off all pity. So when you read and study the Holy Scriptures, going back to the book of Genesis, the 25th and Genesis, the 27th chapter, you understand that Esau lost his blessing and his birthright to our forefather Jacob. And ever since Esau lost that blessing, that was basically the crossing point for Esau, you know. And he basically said in his mind that he was going to murder his brother Jacob because he lost his blessing and his birthright to him. So this hatred that the nation of Edom have towards our people, it goes back thousands of years. Okay? I even dare to say that it could possibly go back a little over 6,000 years. A little after 6,000 years ago. And if you really want to be technical, that hatred really goes back to Cain. Because from the very beginning, which that's what Genesis means, the word Genesis means the beginning, Cain hated Abel because Abel's works were righteous. Abel had the spirit of a righteous person on him. So Cain was envious and he was jealous of Abel, and that led to a strong dislike, which ultimately turned into hate. Because that's what hate is. Hatred is strong dislike. When you have a strong dislike towards somebody, it means you hate them. So Cain hated his brother Abel because Abel's works were righteous. And the Lord, the Most High Yahweh, he had favor unto Abel and his offering because Abel did the right thing. But unto Cain, he had not respect or favor unto his offering. Okay? Cain came in the spirit of doing what he wanted to do, which was what? Out of order. You know, Cain never liked to deal with order. Now, when Cain came back in the reincarnation as Esau, and Abel came back in the reincarnation as Jacob, you know, once again, you had the spirit of the righteous, which was who? Jacob, who was Abel in the reincarnation. Then you had the spirit of the unrighteous, which is the wicked, which is who? Esau, who was Cain in the reincarnation. Okay? And ultimately, again, in the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter, Esau lost his birthright to Jacob. Why? Because Esau came back from the field. He was hungry. In other words, he was starving, and he wanted some emergency rations. He wanted to eat something right away. So what? Esau chose to trade to exchange his birthright for some bloody meat and some lentils, which lentils is like some. It's basically in a category of like beans. They look like beans, but I don't believe they're beans. Okay, so Esau, he basically ate bloody meat with lentils. And then in the book of Genesis, the 27th chapter, he lost his blessing to Jacob. Now, ultimately, was it Jacob's fault that Esau lost his blessing to Jacob? No. Okay? And how do we know that? Because Rebecca was the one who told Jacob about how Isaac was going to bless Esau after making him some venison. So Jacob decided to go along. Jacob didn't know what was going on. He didn't know that Isaac was about to bless his father. But through the spirit, Rebecca told Jacob to go, put some goat skin on your arms and make some venison and bring it to your father. Which is who? Isaac. But ultimately, Esau lost his blessing and his birthright to Jacob. And ever since that time, Esau has had nothing but pure hatred towards Jacob and all of his children and their descendants and so forth. So if you want to know why this man cast off all pity, it goes back to that hatred, that old hatred in the book of Genesis. And his anger did tear perpetually, right? His anger did tear perpetually. Now, did not this man say in his video that he could feel the anger in his voice?
I'm thinking, wow, this man's going to shoot me in my back. Because I could hear the anger in his voice.
And urging our son. The deputy says he can't do that and walks away. That's when the guard pulls his weapon and aims it right at the deputy.
I'm thinking, wow, this man's going to shoot me in my back. Because I could hear the anger in his voice.
And
because he can hear the anger in his voice. Okay, that anger, that hatred goes back to the book of Genesis. And this anger did tear perpetually. And he kept his wrath forever. Even until this very day, you can still feel the wrath in this man's spirit. Going back to the book of Genesis.
Urgent call was placed to 911, but there's not one word that the guy they were concerned about was a deputy.
We got a taxpayer at the IRS office that has a gun and he won't leave the premises. I work at the IRS. I'm an IRS employee.
What's he doing?
He's got a gun and he won't leave.
The deputy, Alan Gaston, does try to leave, but the guard blocks the elevator door.
I asked him about 5 or 6.
You see how much of a hypocrite Esau is? He said he won't leave, but then he tried to block the man's passage from leaving.
Just move your foot so I can go. Nope, you're not going anywhere.
Imagine their surprise when the Toledo, Ohio Police Department got there and realized the allegedly dangerous intruder was their colleague from the county sheriff's department. What happened when the police showed up?
The police were extremely confused. They did ask him, you do know he is a full-time deputy sheriff? And he said yes.
The tables were turned. Instead of the deputy being charged, the security guard was arrested for aggravated menacing.
You see that? So, hey, man. Hey, the scriptures tell you that when a man's ways pleaseth the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him, you know? Because, hey, there comes a time and point to where you don't necessarily have to be in the truth to please the Lord, you know? I mean, what this Jake officer did was he basically did the right thing, you know? He kept his cool. He was humble. He tried to leave. And what happened? Esau, being a demon he was basically trying to have the man arrested and charged. But guess what? One thing that Esau does not understand is that the so-called white man is the sword of the Lord. So, at the end of the day, it is the Heavenly Father and the Son. They have control over the actions of the police. Okay? You Karens can call the police on Jake all you want. The Lord has control over the police. As a matter of fact, let's get there real quick. Isaiah chapter 10 verse 5. It says, O Assyrian, who are the modern day Assyrians today? The so-called white man. The rod of mine anger. What is a rod used for? A rod is used for punishing. So when it says Assyrian here, the rod of his anger, Yes, the modern day Assyrians is talking about the so-called white man, but it's not just talking about just any old so-called white person. It's talking about a so-called white. It's talking about a so-called white person of whom the Lord has given power and authority to basically arrest Jake, which is who? The police. Arrest, detain, seize. That would also include so-called white people that are a part of the military, so-called white people that are a part of the National Guard, so-called white people that are a part of the UN, the UN Army, and so-called white people that are a part of the police force. The Lord has control over his sword. You Karens are not going to just keep calling the police on Jake and expecting them to get arrested. Because the Lord can easily turn his sword, his rod on you and have you punished. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. So the Lord controls where his indignation goes. So this guy got exactly what he deserved. And Jake was calm about it. It's not like, Jake pulled out his gun and told him to put his gun up. No, E is in the wrong here. But again, it goes back to that hatred, man. But with that, I'm going to say, Shalom is on to the next one.